Hey guys, welcome back. Today we have my May wrap up. We have a great stack this month. I had so much fun reading this month. I feel like I was just really in the reading mood, which obviously many of you will know is just the best feeling, and I can feel that mood just continuing. So I think June is going to be a really great month as well. If you want to see what I want to read in June, it'll be coming in a couple days, so keep your eyes peeled for that and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out. I thought it would be fun to share some of my reading stats with you guys. I know a couple of other booktubers, booktalkers, bookstagrammers who do this, and it just looks so fun. So I read 12 books this month, 4,658 pages. I read 8 romance, 2 fantasy, 1 mystery, and 1 non-fiction. I didn't have any 5-star reads this month, but I had a few 4.5s, and my lowest rating was 2.5, so we'll get into that in a minute. And I also read 8 physical books and 4 ebooks. Let's just get straight into it. The first book that I picked up was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I just heard so many great things about this, so I was really excited to pick it up, and it did not disappoint. This was a 4.5-star read for me. It was so good. I had so much fun reading it. Like, the reading experience was just so fun. This is just like your very cliche YA rom-com. If you like movies like The Kissing Booth and To All the Boys I've Loved Before and Sydney White and things like that, I think you'd really like this. It's definitely full of cliches and it's cringy and it's cheesy, but in the best way possible. And it kind of points fun at those really tropey cliches that you find in a lot of rom-coms. So like, it's aware that it's cliche, so I think it does it well. Like, it's not trying to be cute and ending up cheesy. It's trying to be cheesy, which I just loved. The only things I didn't like about this is very minute, but the chapters were so long. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I love myself a book with short chapters. I feel like short chapters just keeps you motivated and excited to keep reading, and these chapters were just so long. I think it would have just done so much better if it had short chapters, but that's a very like minute thing. And the only other thing that I didn't love was that the main character did get annoying sometimes to me. She just like did a few things and said a few things that were annoying. Other than those very small things, it was phenomenal. And I also feel like the first 200 pages are good, not great, but the next 200 pages, phenomenal. Then I picked up Most of All You by Mia Sheridan. This is another 4.5-star book for me, and I think this was my favorite from the month. This was so good. I loved this. It's really interesting because I had only heard a few reviews about this before I picked it up, and the reviews that I had heard were not good. I know some people who DNF'd this, I know some people who rated it 2 stars, but I loved it. I was really shocked at how much I enjoyed it based on the reviews that I'd heard about it, but it just goes to show that everyone obviously has different opinions about books, and everyone's going to enjoy different authors and different writing. You guys know Archer's Voice is one of my favorite books, and this is the same author that wrote Archer's Voice, and you can very much tell that it's the same author because her writing is very similar. I will say, if you liked the writing in Archer's Voice, I would definitely recommend this, and if you didn't like the writing or the pacing in Archer's Voice, you probably won't like this. I think Mia Sheridan seems to have a bit of a naturally slower pacing to her books. I think this is one of those books that is best if you go in blind, so I don't want to tell you too much about it, but I think if you have read Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, you'd probably really enjoy this because there are quite a few similarities. Not so many that you're reading the same book twice, but enough that if you enjoyed one, you'd probably enjoy the other. But I think I just personally really like Mia Sheridan's writing and her characters. You guys know I love a book that has 2 broken people that really find healing and development and growth by the end of the book. We love some character development here on my channel, and both the books that I've read by her so far seem to do that, and I love that aspect of her books. And although her writing has quite slow pacing, I feel like you really get to know the characters and you really get to know their relationship, and I also feel like her writing is quite like lyrical and poetic in a way, which I just love. So I think I'm going to be picking up a lot more of Mia Sheridan's books in the future, because if they're anything like this and Archer's Voice, I think she's going to be a top tier author for me. And then next I picked up Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is her newest release. It was released early May, and I feel like I've just heard so many things about this book already. I also rated this a 4.5 stars. We started off the month so strong. Even though it's been a couple weeks since I finished this, I still can't tell whether I like this or Beach Read better. My favorite part about this book, hands down, was the banter between the 2 main characters. It was just top notch. Like, I just feel like Emily Henry did the perfect job with the banter and the tension and the witty humor that goes on in this book. It was just so good. If you like characters that have quick wit and like sarcasm, you'd probably love her books. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Emily Henry's writing is the perfect balance between literary fiction and romance. She always manages to write a really fun romance with really deep underlying themes. So in this one, I would say some of the underlying themes included family dynamics, the complexities that come with being an older sibling or an older sister in particular, and also grief and how that can manifest. I personally loved the family dynamic element that appeared in this book, honestly in both of the main characters. But the reason why it wasn't a 5-star for me was it just kind of didn't have that 5-star feeling. It did feel like there was something missing, but I also don't know what that something was, and so I don't really know how I would improve this if it was my book. But it just didn't hit me like a 5-star book normally does. A lot of people said they cried in this, and I definitely didn't cry at all. I kind of like finished it, I put it away, and I didn't really think about it much afterwards. So again, I think that's also reason why it wasn't 5 stars for me, because I feel like 5-star books really stick with me afterwards. And I will say, I think the theme of being an older sister was the thing that has stuck with me the most, like not the romance, which is always interesting. After having such a strong start to the month, I picked up I Hated You First by Rachel John, which is free on Kindle Unlimited, and I didn't like this at all. I gave it 2.5 stars, and I honestly think that's being nice. Like I probably should have given it 2 stars, but this just wasn't good. I expected this to be an enemies to lovers based on the title, and it just was not that at all. It's basically about a girl and her brother's best friend who she also works with in their like family business, and her brother's best friend are in love with each other, but they're basically pretending not to be. But it's so clear that they're in love with each other, and so it doesn't feel like an enemies to lovers at all, because at no point in the book did they hate each other. They're both just frustrated and annoyed at each other because they can't be together even though they want to be. And I think it was trying to be like a forbidden love story because she thought she couldn't date him because it was her brother's best friend and her colleague and stuff, and her dad has made a rule that she can't date co-workers, but it wasn't really that forbidden, you know what I mean? Like if they had just had one conversation to the dad, it would have been fine. So I feel like every element of this book that was trying to do something just didn't quite do it, and it ended up just being frustrating and annoying. And I also didn't like the writing, I didn't really like the characters, I just didn't care about any aspect of this story. So this wouldn't be a recommendation from me. It just felt really flat to me, but maybe someone else will enjoy it. It's definitely a quick book, so if you're just looking for a palate cleanser, maybe it's a good one for that, but that's the only good thing I have to say about it. The next book I finished was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas, and I actually only just got my paperback in yesterday. Look at how thick and chunky she is. It's absolutely stunning. I knew I wanted to wait for the paperback to be released before I purchased it because I wanted a paperback that matched all of the other ACOTAR books that I have, so I borrowed this one from the library, but now I have my own copy, which I love. If you guys don't know, this is the 5th book in the ACOTAR series, and this is the first book from Nesta and Cassian's POV. So the first 3 books in the series are Farah and her love interest's point of view. The 4th book is like a little novella, and it kind of goes through many people's POVs, and then this book is from Cassian and Nesta is Farah's sister. So please forgive me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, Sarah J Maas originally was only gonna have the first like 3 to 4 books in the ACOTAR series, and that was supposed to be the end of it, but then she decided she wanted to extend it and write more books from other characters' point of views, which I think is so fun because the characters in the ACOTAR series are my absolute favorite part about the series. The characters are so well developed and they're all so different, and knowing that I'll eventually be able to read books from all of their point of views is just so exciting for me. Azriel is my favorite character, and I cannot wait to read his book whenever it comes out. I don't know when it will be, it'll probably be years from now, but I'm so excited about it. I liked Cassian. I thought he was so fun, and he's just like so jovial and funny and silly, but I don't really know how I feel about Nesta. Nesta is just so mean. It's kind of like Grumpy Sunshine but reversed, so the girl is grumpy and the guy is sunshine, kind of. I just don't like mean characters, and Nesta is just portrayed in all of the other books up until this point as just so mean and selfish, and in this book you definitely get to find out more about like her backstory and her history and why she kind of turned out the way that she did, and it does justify her behavior a little bit, but at the same time she's just still so mean, and I just didn't love that. But I did really enjoy this story. I really enjoyed the plot. I will say I think there's like a bit more smut in this book compared to the other ones, which isn't my personal favorite, but the plot was still really good. I loved the development of the female friendships in this book. I also loved obviously seeing all of the other characters in the first few books come back and kind of show up in this book. The found family and the characters in the ACOTAR series is just unmatched. So for that, I will probably read every book in this series ever. We'll probably be waiting a few more years before we get the next one. So that's kind of sad. But if you haven't picked up the ACOTAR series, I could not recommend it enough. It is just so beautiful. I love it. And I forgot to say, but I rated this a 4.25, so not my favorite in the series, but still really good. The next 3 books that I picked up was One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, Book of Night by Holly Black, and 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. I read all of these in a 24-hour readathon vlog that I did a week or so ago, so if you want to check that out, I'll link it down below and you can see like a more detailed summary of my thoughts. But just really quickly, Book of Night by Holly Black was a really highly anticipated read for me. I was really excited about this because this is the author of the Folk of the Air series, the Cruel Prince trilogy, which is a 5-star series for me. I absolutely adore that series, but this was a little bit of a letdown. I rated it 3.75 stars. I feel like the magic was confusing, the characters weren't likable, the plot was interesting once you got to like 75% of the book, but the first half of it was just a lot of like foreshadowing and setting up, and it just felt like that part of the book was too long, and I feel like the plot needed to start a lot earlier on, if that makes sense. So overall it was good and it was interesting, and I wouldn't not recommend it, but it just really did not live up to my expectations. 99% Mine was a 3-star read for me. It was fun and it was good. It's like brother's best friend rom-com kind of vibe. I think if you like Tessa Bailey's Fix Her Up, you'd probably really like this because it's like a house renovation kind of plot going on. Like I said, it was fun, but it just wasn't anything revolutionary to me. And One Last Stop was a 3.5-star read for me. I enjoyed this. I loved the found family aspect, and the characters in this book were so fun, and the plot definitely was interesting, but at no point in this book was I very hooked. So I feel like I just can't rate it more than 3.5 stars. Next, I picked up Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This was another really highly anticipated read for me because Swear on This Life by Renee Carlino is one of my like top 5 books of all time. And I know that this is her more popular romance, so I was just really excited about this. I ended up rating this 4 stars, and it was honestly a really great romance. I also got to buddy read this with my friend Kirsty, which was really fun, but I don't think it lived up to Swear on This Life for me personally. I would say this is like a strangers to friends to lovers to strangers to lovers. It's a very classic right person, wrong time, second chance romance, soulmate kind of love story. I loved the characters in this, and I loved watching them fall in love in college. It was so beautiful to watch. I will say that I liked the first kind of half of this story of them like falling in love for the first time and getting to know each other. I liked that a lot more than the second part of the book where they like reconnected. Basically they meet and they fall in love. Obviously it's a romance, like I'm not really ruining anything for you there. And then there's like a 15-year gap where they like lose contact with each other, which you find out why in the book, and then they reconnect. And I didn't love the like reconnection part of the story as much as I loved the first part of the book. I feel like the second part of the book kind of felt a bit rushed, and it also felt like the author kind of just threw a few things in there to make things make sense and like make the 15-year gap make sense, and it just didn't flow as nicely as I would have liked. So I think that's why it's like a 4-star read instead of a 5-star read. But I will say that I flew through this book. I read it in like 2 sittings. It's 300 pages and it's such a fast read. So if you want something that's just going to be quick and it's going to hook you right from the start, I think this is a really great option, and I definitely want to check out more from Renee Carlino because I did really enjoy this, and of course I love Swear on This Life. My non-fiction pick for the month was Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. If you didn't know, this is a memoir about Dolly Alderton and basically her life until she is 30, and it mainly focuses on her in her 20s and just kind of being a woman in your 20s, navigating that period of life. It talks about careers and relationships, college experiences, friendships. It really just goes through so many aspects of being a woman in your 20s, and I think that if you are a girl in your 20s, this is such a great book to read because it's the perfect mix of fun stories and also great lessons. Like I think Dolly Alderton is just very wise, and a lot of things that she talked about in this book definitely hit home for me. I feel like I just have to do everything in my 20s. I have to be established and set up, but also just be having fun and like living my life. But reading this just kind of reminded me like your life is not over when your 20s are over. I don't rate memoirs, but I definitely recommend this. Probably one of my favorite books of the year so far. Another book that I borrowed from the library was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This was actually a reread for me. I read this last year and I didn't love it, and so I never continued the series. But when I was reading Book of Night, it just kind of reminded me of some of the things in Truly Devious, and I was like, I wonder what happens in the rest of that trilogy because I never read the rest of it. So I decided that I wanted to reread Truly Devious so that I could remember what happened and then finish the rest of the series. So I'm going to try and finish the rest of the trilogy next month. I did really enjoy Truly Devious. It's a 3.75 star for me. It's not my favorite book ever, but I still think it's a quality YA mystery. It kind of gives Dark Academia vibes because it's about a girl who goes to like a very elite academy, and she actually goes there to try and solve some cold case murders that happened a really long time ago, and bad things just start happening. I love the characters in that book a lot, and I think if you like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, The Inheritance Games, or One of Us is Lying, you'll probably really like this series. And then the last book that I have to talk about is Brightside by Kim Holden. This book has been on my TBR and like my wish list of books to read for the longest time. It's free on Kindle Unlimited, and I actually started this in April, and I got to like 40% of the way through it and I realized that it was going to be a sad book, and prior to that I didn't really know that it was going to be a sad book. I hate reading sad books. I do not understand people who love sad books and want to break their own hearts, but I just can't do it. But it's one of my friend Kirsty's favorite books, and she messaged me, she was like, hey, have you finished Brightside? And I was like, no, I haven't. I put it down because I realized it was going to be a sad book, and she was like, it is sad, but it's worth finishing. So I was like, you know what, Kirsty, I'll do it for you. I know she's watching this. And so I finished it, and it was sad. And I knew it was going to be sad, but it was still sad. Like, you know what's going to happen. Like, by the time the ending happens, you know it's coming, but it's still just so sad. And I definitely cried. But in saying that, I gave it 4.25 stars. I still think it is a phenomenal book, and I really did love the ending despite how sad it was. The whole message of the book is really, really good. I honestly think I could have rated it higher if, one, I wasn't so mad that the book ended up being sad because I wasn't expecting it to be sad, which is kind of my own fault for going in blind when I could have just like read a review and realized that it was sad. And two, the fact that I could put it down for so long in between reading it made me realize it's probably not a 5-star for me. Like, it wasn't one of those books that I just felt like I needed to keep reading. It was very easy for me to just put it down and not really think about it for a while, so do with that what you will. I still think it's really worth it, and if any of my friends come to me asking for like an emotional or sad book, I will definitely recommend Brightside to them because it's sad, but it's worth it. But those are all the books that I have to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed hearing about all of my thoughts on all of the books that I read in May, and if you guys want to see what I plan to read in June, stay tuned. I think I'll have my TBR coming in like 2 days, so subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on that. Otherwise, keep your eyes peeled because it'll be coming your way. Also, I'm kind of proud of myself because one of my goals for May was to make a big dent in my physical TBR because it has just been building up. And I definitely did that. Like, we definitely got through quite a chunk of my physical unread books. But yeah, I had so much fun reading in May. Please let me know what your favorite book that you read in May was because I'm always looking for new recommendations. But I love you guys. I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you guys in my next video very soon. Goodbye.